Okay, hi. I'm Julie. I'm going to talk about my cranial neuralgias with my lupus because I'm trying to find out the source of the different cranial neuralgias that I have so that I can get treatment. I had a radiofrequency ablation, which is the second time I've had it on my neck. I have herniations between C1 and C5. And they're pretty bad. And I've been getting cortisone shots and now ablations, radiofrequency ablations, and they've been very helpful. I've had pain in my neck probably a good 8 on the pain scale, and the ablations really help. I was doubled over, I'm talking ready to go to the ER, laying on a heating pad, letting it burn the back of my neck because that's how bad it hurt. The burning felt better. So I haven't had it like that again, thank goodness, but my doctor who does the ablations is an absolute lifesaver. I have them done at Pain Management, and they're fantastic. As far as that goes, this is what gave me a clue to what might be causing my cranial nerve attacks. I had a geniculate attack, neuralgia, on the right side of my face a couple weeks ago. It was in my ear. It was just like getting the trigeminal neuralgia that I had on the left side of my face, except in my ear. And it felt like there was a woodpecker in there going like it felt like an ice pick. And the attack, it happened in clusters, just over 2 days, and they got less and less frequent and less bad. So there it was, and it was the weirdest thing. My whole jaw was involved. I could feel my jaw pulling. I could feel the familiar pain in the jaw. But instead of it going underneath my eye with the twitching, like what happens on the left with the trigeminal, it was in my ear. And thank goodness it didn't last long. I haven't had one since. It lasted 2 days. And since then, I haven't had any other cranial problems. So that's what led me to believe now my TN is what they call atypical. Typical being you get it on one side, it's probably a nerve compression, and you can be treated with microvascular decompression surgery, which is pretty successful in a lot of cases. But if you have atypical, meaning you have more than one neuralgia, or you have it in both sides, or you have it all the time, not in attacks, you have what's known as atypical. And since I had it on this side, there it is, atypical. So now we're worried, of course, what is giving me the neuralgias, and you know, what is the source? So because without knowing that, I can't have treatment. So I mean, it would be contraindicated for the microvascular surgery. I'm pretty sure that's what I've been told. So while the doctor was giving me this ablation, nerve ablation, you know, he looked back there and he said, your neck is the worst I have ever seen. And he said, as a matter of fact, your cervical area is the worst I've ever seen. And, you know, I knew I had herniated discs. I knew I had bone spurs. And I always thought that they were from osteoarthritis. And when I asked my neurologist one time years ago, he said birthdays. So I thought, I've got them from birthdays. You know, I'm getting older. It just happens to people who are getting older. Well, a light went off in my head this time, and I realized, wait a minute, this isn't from birthdays. The doctor said your connective tissue back there is really destroyed. And connective tissue, lupus, connective tissue, ding 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 ding. Okay, I get it. My connective tissue is damaged from the lupus. I've got 4 herniated discs. I've got clusters of bone spurs, and it's from lupus. Okay, now when I had the first trigeminal attack, I had the pulling, if you've seen my other video, of my face. It pulled completely over to the left and it stuck there. My neck muscle moved and stuck. I was explaining it to somebody and they said, Julie, do you know that that's called torticollis spasms? And I said, no, I thought it was part of the TN. Well, I looked it up. Sure enough, the auxiliary nerve, which is the 11th cranial nerve, causes torticollis spasms. And that's exactly what was going on in my neck. I was scared to death I was going to be paralyzed like that for life. And I do understand that there are sufferers out there who have this and are, incapacitated for quite a while. And their head does move over to the left. Their shoulders are crooked. And had it stayed that way, I would have been like that too. Cranial nerve 11, sound familiar? Okay, the problems in my neck causing cranial nerve 11 from lupus to be damaged. The trigeminal nerve ganglion, not that far away from that area, also cranial nerve. Okay, that is hypothesis 1 of how I ended up with several cranial neuralgias. Hypothesis number 2, when I had the geniculate neuralgia in my right ear, I had an outbreak of cold sores. I had them in my nose. I get lupus sores too, in my nose and mouth, and cold sores. And I had a sore in my ear. I had a sore in the ear that I had the geniculate attack in. So that in itself was suspicious. I know that the herpes zoster virus lies dormant in the trigeminal ganglion, and that is the virus that causes shingles. It's the chickenpox virus, lies dormant, comes out. When it comes out years later after lying dormant due to immune compromising or whatever, it's shingles. And it does cause post-herpetic syndrome, where you'll get trigeminal neuralgia attacks from it. But I've never had shingles. I've had rashes. They don't look like shingles. My rheumatologist told me the last rash I had looked to him like it was Coxsackie, and it was in my nerves. I didn't have a runny nose. I didn't have any of those things. I certainly didn't have the blisters or the familiar shingles look. The rash was very sparse. I'm not familiar of shingles at all. And so this time I had the cold sore. I get them once a month. I get bed sores. I get the lupus sores in my mouth. I get them in my nose. I get cold sores around my mouth. I've had trouble with cold sores all my life. And I happen to have it in that ear. And I wonder, I did a little research on herpes simplex 1, and it is thought, and there is a lot of information out there, that herpes simplex 1 virus can lie dormant in the trigeminal ganglion as well. So that's another theory. Could that be what's going on? And of course then the third theory is that I've got damage to the myelin sheath on the nerves, much like what happens in multiple sclerosis from lupus, from the inflammatory process and lupus attacking the nerves. And to go along with that, I've got severe peripheral neuropathy that I've had for 15 years, even though my A1Cs have been in check the last 10 years. I was gestational diabetic 20 years ago. 5 years after that, I became type 2. But my A1Cs and my blood glucose control is fantastic. And I have the A1Cs to prove it. They're all under 6. So I really don't think that the diabetes caused my peripheral neuropathy. I do believe, and my doctors do now, that it's the lupus that did it. So being that I have a tendency to sensory neuropathies and peripheral neuropathy, that the idea of the cranial nerves, the myelin sheath being damaged from lupus is, of course, the third possibility. The reason it's so important to me to find out which is why I have cranial neuropathies is for treatment. I mean, it's the most painful, surreal, nightmare of a condition you could ever want. They call it a suicide disease for a reason. I mean, to be honest with you, during my first attack, it included all 3 branches of the trigeminal nerve. I had the hemofacial spasms with it, where my eye was twitching and my upper cheek twitched. And then I had the torticollis spasms with it, where my neck was pulled over. All at the same time. I had the attacks in clusters the first time. And if you would have handed me a gun, I might have pulled that trigger. It was unbelievable. And, you know, I'm not a depressed person. And I'm used to living with pain, but this goes beyond pain. And so I want to find out what it is. I'm hoping for treatment. Do I want Botox? And then I hear stories that Botox might help. But if you have lupus and the lupus attacks the Botox because it looks at it as an invader in the body, I could become paralyzed. You know, and would microvascular decompression surgery, would that be successful for me? We don't know. It depends on the cause. So my goal now is to see a neurosurgeon next week who specializes in cranial neuropathies and does the microvascular decompression surgery, get a detailed MRI, one where they can really see the trigeminal nerve and see if there's any compressions, and take it from there. So now I'm on an information seek, you know, with the doctors, the specialists, and the labs. Now let's see where I fit in and what can be done and what, you know, what their hypothesis is. I know my rheumatologist thinks that my trigeminal neuralgia is from a virus, and my neurologist is not familiar with cranial neuralgias. He does know about trigeminal neuralgia, thank goodness. So he's treating me for that, and I am taking Tegretol, which is an anticonvulsant. So I have a feeling that that's been helping, because certainly the attacks after the first one have not been as bad. They're bad, but not as bad. So I want to get my doctors all on the same path. I want to get them, you know, talking to each other so that a game plan can be put forth to keep things from progressing, keep them from getting worse. I don't want to wake up one day and end up in convulsions or severe central nervous system problems. You know, I already have a neurogenic bladder, and I worry about those things. I have family to take care of. I'm married. I'm doing my best to keep quality of life. So I will keep you updated on my progress and my labs and what the specialists say. And I know that there are other people out there. I know that I have talked to them. I've met people online who have lupus and who have cranial neuropathies and neuralgias and have no idea what the cause is. Doctors like to just say, well, it's lupus, but they don't know. There's just not enough specialists in this field that we can go somewhere and they say, oh, that's what's wrong with you. So I wanna document my search for them, for all the people like me who fall through the cracks in this area of medicine and need help. You know, too often we hear it's lupus, it's just lupus. Well, why? What's happening? What's the process, and what can we do to stop it? And that's why I'm doing it. So again, 3 possible scenarios. One is that my herniated discs semi-damaged between C1 and C5 in my cervical spine are causing pressure and damage to auxiliary nerve 11, cranial nerve 11, and that damage and inflammation is also causing damage to the trigeminal ganglion. Second one is that I've got a herpes simplex 1 virus, because I've not had shingles in the trigeminal ganglion, and that is causing my neuralgias. And the third one, of course, is that lupus and the inflammation process are causing damage to the myelin sheath on the nerves. Now that is the best, as I know to explain, and I'm not in the medical field, so hopefully I've said it in a way that you can understand, and more than just me can benefit. Thanks for watching. Talk to you next time. Bye.